Let's say there was a fire and you had to choose between saving your own child, which I doubt you have, but let's pretend that you do, and saving a black child that's not yours. Which one would you save?
Well, first off, you know what they say about assumptions. It makes an ass out of you
Yeah.
and me. But in this case,
Yeah.
just you, because I would save the black child first.
Devil's Advocate.
With Skyler Turden. All right, welcome to Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Skyler Turden. Today we'll be talking with a guest about the hot topic of abortion. Before I came on the show, actually, I had some trail mix, and I don't know if I've caught my tooth. Is it cashew? It's like a filbert. I'm not sure, but it's a problem. You know, they should have a warning on those packages because stuff's going to stay with me all day. All right, so our guest to talk about this issue, I guess she's seen as an authoritative figure on the right as it relates to the topic of abortion. She released a film that I believe she produced, directed, starred in as well. Unplannedfilm.com, former director of Planned Parenthood a while back. Abby Johnson, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Skyler.
So I want to make sure that people understand this. You talk about abortion quite a bit. You consider yourself, I don't want to mislabel you, pro-life, anti-choice, one of them.
Yeah, pro-life. I mean, I'm definitely for choices, so I'm not anti-choice, but yeah, pro-life.
Okay, so you're not anti-choice, so you support a woman's right to choose then?
Yeah, I definitely support a woman's right to make choices with her pregnancy, as long as that choice doesn't infringe on the rights of another human being.
Right. So you would support her choice to terminate a pregnancy if need be?
No, because that choice would then infringe upon the rights of another human being.
How's that?
Well, as far as I know, and as far as science claims, the fetus inside of the womb is a human being.
Well, how are we to find that? I find it, by the way, very delicious that you're now obviously sort of referencing science. I believe this is the right people who we'll do climate change another day. We'll have someone else on there to talk about that. But why are you defining that as a human being? Because you use the word fetus, right, and human being separately, and then you use them interchangeably. A fetus is not yet a human being.
I'm wondering then what you think it is. What species is it? Is it like canine or feline?
No, this is the thing that people on the right do, and they say, "Oh, a fetus doesn't turn into a dog. It doesn't turn into a sea otter. Whatever it is." That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we put different value in different stages of human life all the time. It's not yet, even I would say the same thing if it's a whale. A fetus in a whale is not yet a whale. It's a potential whale. This is effectively a zygote. Could be seen as a parasite by scientific definition, to use the people who you love to give credibility. But it's not yet a human being. Why do you think that it is a human being on par with requiring the rights that are seen from someone like you or myself?
Yeah, I think that science would disagree with you because the DNA of that fetus, embryo, zygote, whatever you want to call it, is human DNA, and it's not anything else. It can't ever be anything else.
So is DNA what defines a human then, by your definition?
I mean, yeah, science defines it that way, yeah.
So if I do that and I scrape off some dead skin cells, that's DNA. Is that like mass genocide right there, according to the world, according to Abby Johnson?
No, that wouldn't be mass genocide because your skin cells are not living human beings.
Well, they're potential living human beings, just like a fetus, right? That's where we get into this ground of everyone has a line. Apparently yours is at skin cells, and mine is at a woman being forced to carry a pregnancy.
Could you send me an article, Skyler, about, I'd be interested about any sort of research where skin cells have been turned into a human being?
Okay, so this brings us on to the further point. So for you, it's the potential to be a human being that makes one a human being.
No, it just is a human being.
Okay, but then we get back into this wordplay. It's not a human being yet. It's potential to be a human being. So I want to understand, I mean, because right now, let's deal with the actual human being who's there, the mother, right? Why are you so vehement in denying the choice to the mother who is living, who is sentient, who has a whole lifetime of experiences, memories, emotions? Why are you giving the right of way to a potential human being?
So is for you sentience, that's what defines a human being?
Well, I think it's a part of it, yeah. Does that not for you?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Well, I mean, would you say that someone who's in a vegetative state is not a human being if they're not sentient?
Well, they, to use your sort of metaphysics, they have the potential to come back from that, right? They were a human being already before that vegetative state, presumably.
So then what are they while they're in the vegetative state?
They're in flux. Yeah, they're in flux. But I would be okay with pulling the, we can go back to Terry Schiavo. That's a whole different topic about euthanasia. I think that people should have the right to do that, especially if they're seriously causing harm to those around them who are being forced to support someone who no longer has the ability to take care of themselves. So I think that my point of view there is remarkably consistent.
Oh, okay. Well, I find it to be completely unscientific, Skyler, actually. And I mean, I got to tell you that embryology textbooks would disagree with you, physicians would disagree with you, and actually I think that the pro-choice movement would have a lot more credibility if they would just come out and admit that abortion is terminating a human being. In fact, Dr. Leroy Carhart, who is a very infamous abortion doctor, he just recently said in an interview with the BBC that he is killing a baby when he performs abortions. And as terrible as we might think that is, as pro-lifers, I at least have some sort of respect for him for admitting what he's doing.
So you said physicians would disagree with me. Are these the physicians who fired you unceremoniously from Planned Parenthood?
Oh, I wasn't fired.
No? No, why don't you tell the story behind that?
Sure, yeah. I ended up leaving Planned Parenthood on my own free will after witnessing, well, a few things, actually. One being
free will seems important to you, yeah. Something that we can circle back to that. Free will is also something that makes a human. But yes, go back to your termination there at Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. So I was told to double the abortion quota that we had at Planned Parenthood, the number of abortions that we had to sell to women. And ultimately, though, I ended up leaving after witnessing a live ultrasound-guided abortion where I saw a 13-week-old fetus attempting to move away from the abortion instruments. And I knew then that life did exist in the womb and that I was on the wrong side of this debate.
Right, and so that's when you left and had a lucrative book deal and film deal. But that's a topic for another day. You talk about free will, obviously. Why does that matter if all that makes up a human being is DNA? I guess my question here is, if you say that it's a human being, are you saying then that abortion is, in fact, like the people with the signs and the chopped up baby parts, do you believe that abortion is murder?
Well, I think right now, with murder is a legal term. So I don't think that we can define abortion as murder right now. Because abortion, unfortunately, is legal in the United States. However, the hope then for us as pro-lifers is that we would make abortion illegal, and therefore abortion would be seen as murder if abortion were to be illegal.
And so what would you do at that point? Would you jail every woman who's exercised their choice to terminate a pregnancy?
You mean retroactively?
Yeah.
No. In fact, that's against the Constitution. So we're not allowed to do that. And actually, I'm not a person who says, oh, well, if abortion becomes illegal, then we throw women who have abortions in prison. I think that we have to look at intent. Most women do not go into abortion clinics with the intent of maliciously killing their child. We live in time where society and pressures around these women are causing them to feel like they have no other choice but to have abortion. So we definitely have to look at intent in those situations, because women don't have abortions alone. There's many different women. There's many different players in a woman's decision to have an abortion.
Yeah, but I mean, that's in any other scenario, right? Intent might affect the severity, the degree of the murder. But it seems to me that if you're saying you make it illegal, women would have to go to prison, because there's nowhere else in the current legal system that I'm aware of. Maybe you can correct me with some references to science here, or I assume you're a legal scholar as well, where people it's reduced to manslaughter. Even if someone didn't intend to. So I can't think of anywhere else where someone who would be involved in the decision to abort a baby where they wouldn't be legally liable. It seems to me that if you do that, women would have to be jailed for this crime.
I don't think they have to be jailed. I think for me, I think that many women are truly victims of our current society and the culture of death that we live in. And so I think that you have to look at different situations. I think that, we could be talking about an issue of manslaughter over being charged with murder. But, we don't know how that's going to all shake out. We haven't even overturned Roe v. Wade yet. So, but
what do you say yet? Is that your goal? You say yet. Is that what
sure, it's one of them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really? So you would want to overturn... Sounds to me, from what I understand, you're more conservative, but you would want to overturn what is recognized as a constitutional right to abortion in Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Well, what's to stop people from turning over the right to free speech or to bear arms at that point if we're just taking away rights? See what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think that we should ever have a right to force ourselves upon another human being and take their life. So if that's a constitutional right. And honestly, abortion's not really a constitutional right. It was sort of looped in under the right of privacy, but the Constitution doesn't say anywhere that a woman has a right to have an abortion.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll have to look that up afterward. But let me ask you this. Is there any scenario in which you believe that abortion or termination of a pregnancy would be permissible? Would you make any exceptions?
No.
Not even, most. So you're pretty radical then in that point of view, because even a lot of people on the right wing would make exceptions for, rape, incest, and health of the mother, of course, which, makes up a large portion of abortions performed. You wouldn't have any exceptions for those?
No. In fact, the overwhelming majority, about 97% of abortions take place because of convenience.
Wow.
So only about 3% of women who have abortions claim that they're having an abortion because of their life or health and because of rape or incest. In fact, the majority of women who do conceive from rape actually choose to parent their children. A very small percentage actually choose abortion.
Well, but see, they make that choice. You would remove that choice. So if a woman is, let's say, raped, let's say in a place like West Virginia or Oklahoma, red states, do you think you would force that woman, that girl, to carry a rapist baby?
I'm not forcing her to do anything, but I'm just simply saying you shouldn't have a right to kill another human being.
Well, you are forcing her to carry that rapist baby. If you're not allowing her to have an abortion, you're forcing her to carry the child.
I'm not forcing her.
So, well, then she can...
The only act of force that's been carried out upon her is the actual rape. And I don't believe that one act of violence should then be returned with another act of violence, which is exactly what abortion is.
So what would you do? What would you say to someone who's a victim of incestuous rape who wants to terminate the pregnancy? Since you're against it, no one else can have the right to freedom of choice. So what would you say to that person? She's sitting right here, right in front of you right now, but she had the courtesy to turn off her iPhone. She's sitting right there. What would you tell her? Sorry, you were raped by your Goonie brother, but we overturned Roe v. Wade. That doesn't seem compassionate for someone who seems to care about life. What about the life of the mother?
Yeah, I hear that, Skyler. I do. But here's the thing. There are actually studies that have been done on this. And what they have found is that women who conceive from rape actually fare better, far better emotionally if they choose to place the child for adoption or choose to parent. So as a person who considers herself pro-woman and really someone who values women
right.
and speaks up for women,
mm-hmm.
I can't in good conscience tell a woman that it's in her best interest to have an abortion, not when all the data out there says that by her having an abortion, she will not do well emotionally, she will suffer great trauma, and that she will essentially be having to heal from yet another traumatic incident in her life. So, I mean, if I'm a person who says I'm really going to support women, I don't want to support them being re-traumatized by abortion after something as heinous as rape.
Well, we can both agree it's heinous. So if you're saying that the outcomes are better for women who are raped to carry the child, sounds to me like, well, why stop rape? I mean, they're doing better by your logic, right? They're doing better if they're raped to have a baby. So what's the difference?
Well, I don't think they're doing better than women who haven't been raped.
Oh, you're just saying they're doing better than women who've been raped and have abortions performed?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious to see that data. Here's something that's important to me. What's the difference, for example? Let's do a thought exercise. This baby, all right, this fetus, this zygote, is entirely dependent on the mother, right? There's no possible chance at viability. So what's the difference between, let's say, a mother not properly caring for the baby, not properly, let's say, maybe she's malnourished, or she doesn't take prenatal vitamins, right? Is that considered, at that point, would that be considered murder in your eyes? Because the idea here is, listen, this baby is completely dependent on the mother. It's not a viable human being outside of the womb. So again, it comes to this idea of forcing women to take care of effectively what is a parasite.
Well, I think we have to look at it a different way. I think we want women to take care of themselves. So if a woman is malnourished, then we need to look at what's happening in her life, because that's not only affecting the life of her baby, but that's affecting her life. So I'm not really sure, even in the end, what that has to do with abortion, because if a woman is not eating, if she's starving to death, then we want to make sure that we are taking care of her, and that will in turn take care of her child.
Right, but the point here is we're kind of getting to the argument of viability. That baby is not viable without the mother. So, where does the government?
My baby can't. I have a 12-week-old, and I can tell you, he can't live without me either.
Well, he can breathe on his own, right? Of course, he needs to be cared for. But there's a difference between that and actual viability, the ability to survive merely outside of the womb. Basic primary functions, central nervous system, the ability to breathe, developed lungs. That's not the case with these zygotes to which you're referring. Does that not enter into the equation at all, viability, to define a human being, or at least as it relates to rights? I mean, the mother who is viable, should her rights not matter at that point? Even though she's a viable human being on her own, she has to take care of an unviable human being because Abby Johnson says so?
Well, I mean, viability is not really that important to me. I mean, it either is an innocent human life or it's not. And whether it's viable or not, I mean, that's sort of a moot point. We have a responsibility to take care of humans that are in our care. I have a responsibility to take care of my 8 children. I have a responsibility to care for my children when they are in the womb. And viability really is it's so subjective, because as medical science continues to advance, viability, the weeks that determine viability continue to decrease. So, even 30 years ago, a baby that was born at 30 weeks gestation would have a very, very difficult time surviving at 30 weeks. Now we've got babies being born alive at 21, 22 weeks that are surviving outside of the womb. So we can't really dictate what's moral or immoral based on medical science that continues to advance.
Well, I do think it has somewhat of an effect. Let's do another thought experiment here. Let's say there were a fire at a fertility clinic, right? And you could rescue a kid in the waiting room, or a bunch of test tube embryos.
Sure.
So would you rescue the test tubes, or would you rescue the child first?
Well, these sort of hypothetical situations are really cute. And they're
I don't think they're cute. They're not meant to do anything. I was trying to say, what are you saying, that
they're meant
there's an
to
equivalency?
Create an emotional reaction. I get that, but
I get that you're not answering. I get that you're not answering the question. So you would save the tubes before the child.
Listen, take a puff on your vape. Listen to me.
Not
rescuing someone.
I don't like what I'm hearing, but I will.
Yeah, sure. It's not the same as directly killing them. Okay, so there's really a false equivalence there. So here's a thought experiment for you, Skyler. So let's say there was a fire, and you had to choose between saving your own child, which I doubt you have, but let's pretend that you do, and saving a black child that's not yours. Which one would you save?
Well, first off, you know what they say about assumptions. It makes an ass out of you and me. But in this case, just you, because I would save the black child first. Listen, I can do this all day. I've been answering. I've answered your questions, which is more than I can say for.
Of course, you would save your own child first. That's what we are innately created to do, to protect our own children, to protect those that we love. So of course we're going to do that. That's not wrong, but that doesn't make you a racist for not saving the black child, does it? Or
no, I'm not a racist because I saved the black child in your hypothetical.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
I would save all the black children, frankly, before I got down the line to my kid.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't want to have kids because, listen, I think we already have a climate that's too unstable as it stands right now. So, but I understand you have you have 12 or 15 kids. Breeder Central right here. Yeah. Right.
So many kids. My carbon footprint is like, whoa.
And you think that's responsible just because some guy in Italy says that you can't use a Jimmy hat?
Oh, but I don't like using them.
Well, listen, I don't want to go into your personal preferences. I need to know if there's like some kind of a weird Vietnamese hammock in your closet somewhere, though. In my experience, the people who tend to be the most reserved, conservative, who want to preserve family values have
freaks.
They do. Oh, so you're acknowledging that?
Yeah, total freaks. Yeah.
So maybe all of this is really just.
Yeah.
Maybe all this is just stemming from the fact that you personally want to justify your preferences, your freakishness, as you're saying, and maybe it's not really rooted in science, as you were trying to say earlier.
Oh, it's totally rooted in science.
Well, listen, I would save all the black children first, so I don't know. I mean, I think that says more about you than it says about me, honestly. Let me ask you this. So you consider yourself, I know we've heard the moniker a lot, right? Pro-life, because everyone goes, well, I'm pro-life and I'm not pro-death. Yeah. So are you pro-life after the baby's born or just before? This is something I would have a problem with the pro-life community.
Because you want to think that we're pro-birth.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
after the baby's born, do you support things like socialized health care? How about education? How about free nannying? How about paternity leave and maternity leave and zternity leave? What do you support after the baby's born? Or is it just, hey, listen, we made sure that the mom didn't have a choice while you were, behind the birth canal, but now you're on your own?
Yeah. No, I'm definitely pro-life before and after birth. So I do support women and their children. We have, in fact, I feel like the pro-life movement are we're probably the largest organization helping, the largest group of people helping children who are born. And I mean, we have pregnancy centers. We're providing care for many women and children. We have maternity homes that provide housing. We have centers that provide resources, diapers, and things like that. You won't ever walk into a Planned Parenthood and find a store for moms where they can get diapers. So I'm sort of wondering, why it is that if they say they are for women making choices, why they don't help support women who make the choice for life.
Oh, I think they have the choice to not terminate a pregnancy, but then they're infringing on another woman's choice to go into a Planned Parenthood, and seek the assistance of a professional, of a medical professional, versus a volunteer army who hand out free diapers from the back of a news van.
A news van?
They've seen these pro-life vans that go around and they do these free ultrasounds for women. I mean, I certainly wouldn't put that on par with the ability of a doctor, an OBGYN at Planned Parenthood to actually provide women's health services. Not just termination of pregnancy, by the way. It's a small portion of Planned Parenthood's proceeds,
Sure.
as you well know. That's why I think these organizations are very important. And the pro-life community is crippling women's health care in general, which again would lead me to suggest anti-choice.
Yeah. That would be true if it were actually OB-GYNs that were providing care for women inside of Planned Parenthood, but they're not. In fact, I was the director of a Planned Parenthood, and I'm not a nurse or a doctor or anything. I mean, I'm not even a medical assistant. I don't have any sort of medical credential, but I was running the whole dang place. So,
Maybe that's why you were fired.
No, wasn't fired. But it's interesting because that is a lie, a myth that goes around about Planned Parenthood, that they have all of this high quality health care. And the bottom line is that the only thing that they provide that would be difficult for a woman to receive at another healthcare facility with actually better care would be abortion. I mean, a woman can get a pap smear anywhere she wants. And
well, come on, it's not just pap smear or abortion. Contraceptives, mammograms. These are things.
No mammograms.
What are you saying?
No mammograms. There's no Planned Parenthood in the country that has a mammogram machine.
Yes, mammograms. They do have mammogram machines.
No. We actually did a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. You may have to look it up. But we actually did a FOIA request because in order to run a mammogram machine, you have to have a license to run that machine. So we looked in every state who has licenses for these mammogram machines, and shockingly or not so shockingly, Planned Parenthood doesn't have any.
Well, they can refer you to a place that does, at the very least.
Sure, yeah, I can refer somebody to a place that does.
No, you would need to be a medical professional to refer somebody to.
No. Actually, the law states that you don't have to receive a referral from a medical professional to get a mammogram.
Oh, I find this hard to believe.
You should probably look that up.
I find this hard to believe that everybody else, we know this, that we've had people talking about, obviously, Planned Parenthood and the women's health that they provide, including mammograms, and Abby Johnson has figured something out that everybody else missed.
Oh, I don't think everybody else missed it. I mean, in fact, Cecile Richards, the former president of Planned Parenthood, had to admit in congressional testimony that they don't provide mammograms. So actually, I feel like maybe you've just missed it.
No, I don't think that I've missed anything at all. I think that you framed this, and you're very clever with this. You framed it in that you just don't think a woman has the right to, assuming that someone goes on with your idea that mere DNA defines a human being, you've sort of created this dynamic of a woman doesn't have a right to terminate another person's life. But the fact is, this life is dependent on that woman, right? We sort of covered viability. This is very similar to forcing a woman to donate a kidney, or forcing a woman to take care of another human being that she didn't sign up to take care of. There isn't any kind of a contract. So you are forcing that woman to take proactive actions in caring for another human being, right? So either way, you say, well, she can't proactively kill a human being. Well, I'm saying you can't proactively force a woman to give her plasma and her life force to another human being. Well, how do you feel comfortable forcing a woman to do that?
Yeah, I like the kidney analogy. That's good. I don't think you're quite there with it though, because I think the reality would be if someone chose to donate a kidney, and then the comparison that you're trying to make would be then if they said, never mind, I'm going to take my kidney back. Because every time that a person engages in sexual activity, aside from rape, you are making the conscious decision to embark upon possible consequences that could mean creating life. So if you're not okay with that, I mean, there really is a simple solution. I mean, it's your action that led to the creation of a human being. So if you don't want to be held responsible for that action, then don't commit that action.
So you would support then free subsidized birth control and contraceptives for everyone out there then to reduce the amount of unwanted pregnancies?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when I first left Planned Parenthood, I remember thinking that was the answer. But, when you look at the Guttmacher Institute, which is essentially Planned Parenthood's research arm, they've actually shown that 54% of women who get abortions were using contraception at the time that they got pregnant. So clearly the answer isn't just simply birth control, because, I mean, if you look at what this means is if you look into a waiting room, an abortion clinic waiting room, more than half of those women were contracepting and they're there pregnant and waiting to get an abortion. So I'm not sure that contraception is actually the solution. I think that we need, we really need to be talking to people about self-control. We need to educate people about their bodies. But I just don't think that birth control is actually this solution that everybody wants it to be.
It's a multi-pronged approach, and by that same token, I could say, well, listen, that means that close to half of those people weren't using contraception because of a lack of quality education and because of the religious rights abstinence-only education. Right? I don't understand how you don't want abortions, but you don't want to take all these actions that would reduce the abortions, free contraceptives, education that let people know about how to use contraceptives properly. It seems like the only problem you have is when it comes to abortion, you seem more passionate about limiting choice of women than actually helping them prevent unwanted pregnancies.
I'm super passionate about not killing innocent human beings. That's true.
So then why wouldn't you be as passionate about preventing that scenario from even occurring? It seems to me that that's something a lot of people on the right don't. It's not really, I don't know how you justify that.
Well, as I just told you, birth control is not the solution to this problem, as Planned Parenthood and the Guttmacher Institute have already shown us. I think that we do need better education. I would definitely agree with that. But, telling a woman, well, the problem is yours, don't get pregnant, here's some birth control, is really not what we should be telling women. That's really shirking. It's allowing men to shirk their responsibility that they have. And I just don't really think that that's something that we want to promote, is it?
Well, first of all, as a man, I don't think that men should be involved in this decision at all, right? If they have a penis, no opinion. Yeah.
So you don't support Roe v. Wade then?
No, I do. Yeah.
Okay, but you know that all the justices that decided Roe were men, right?
I do see your point. Yeah, I see your point with the wordplay there. But I'm talking about the man involved in the action of creating that fetus, that zygote. Once it's no woman's body, right? She's the incubator. The guy has nothing to do with it. So no penis, no penis.
I mean, he did have a contribution to that life. I mean, albeit sometimes small and a short contribution, but there was a contribution made.
Yeah, but now the contribution is out of his hands and it's in the woman's. I'm just saying only women should have an opinion on this issue. I don't think it's right for men to step in and tell a woman what she can do with her body. I mean, it seems to me, I don't know why you would be against that as a woman. It doesn't make, I don't understand. You think that a man should be able to tell you what you can do with your body or not? That's weird.
Actually,
right?
I think that fertility is always shared because, again,
I'm sorry, your Skype caught out at that last second. What was that?
Oh, I said I believe that fertility should be shared between a woman and a man because of science. I can't create human life on my own.
Well, you can create life now without men because of, to go back to your point earlier, medical advancements, and I think that's probably where we're headed, considering how toxic. And I'm willing to admit this. That's the same reason I would save a black child before my own child. White people and men have contributed a very toxic culture to this entire discussion. So yeah, I think hopefully we can be progressive enough that that's where we're headed. Final question here. We do have to get going. It's Abby Johnson. Unplannedfilm.com is available now. And I know with this film, you focus a lot on sort of ultra late term abortions because that scares people a lot, but it's less than 1% of abortions. Do you think that's maybe misleading or dishonest when the fact is the vast majority of abortions occur at a point where most people would support it?
Well, I mean, that's true. A late-term abortion is a small percentage. It ends up being around anywhere between 15 and 18,000 abortions a year that are taking place in the later weeks of pregnancy, which is still a lot. I mean, 15 to 18,000 late-term babies being killed. I mean, that's a lot. And to your point, these babies are viable, could live outside of the womb, which, I mean,
right. I think that's why you use them as an example, because you think it's more effective. But it's a red herring.
But for me, I mean, actually, my story is about an abortion that took place at 13 weeks in the first trimester. So, I mean, in a way, Skyler, I would agree with you because I don't think that the pro-life movement should be specifically saying, oh, well, late-term abortion is ultra heinous, because realistically, first trimester abortion is just as heinous. I mean, if we as pro-lifers believe that life is life, then in the end, it really doesn't matter what week that child's life is terminated. It's all wrong.
So final question was, we take the totality of abortions, of terminated pregnancies. Let's say you had your way and these hadn't been performed, right? And let's assume that women didn't go and get back alley abortions, which is what they would do. But let's assume that's not the case. Who takes care of these millions of babies, of unwanted babies in this scenario? I mean, you're talking about millions of people at this point into the population. You don't have people to care for them.
You know, it's interesting, actually. We passed a law in Texas a few years ago that required teenagers to have parental consent before they could get an abortion. And we didn't really know what the staff.
You sound very proud of that, Miss Pol Pot.
Yeah, super proud. And we were trying to look at the numbers later, and what we found was that not only we knew that the number of abortions would decrease, but what we were surprised at is that the actual number of teen pregnancies in the state decreased. And I think one of the reasons was because these girls knew that they were not going to have the easy solution of abortion if they got caught and they ended up getting pregnant. So these girls ended up making more responsible decisions. So I think that I think it's sort of a multi-pronged approach here, that when you pass laws, it also restricts behavior. So it's not just the consequence of that behavior, but I think it causes people to look and to say, well, I don't have this option, so maybe I won't participate in this action.
So you control them through fear. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you control them with fear. Yeah.
Or just making people, take personal responsibility for their actions.
Sure. Yeah, you and Mussolini.
Then,
okay, I'll let you finish, and then I would like to hear your closing thoughts because we do have to get going. But yes, continue.
Sure. Yeah. But then also, I'm sure that there would be women who would go and have dangerous abortions. But that's not a reason to keep something legal. I mean, drinking and driving is illegal and people still continue to drink and drive. We're not going to say, well, because some people do it, we're going to allow drinking and driving to be legal. And not to mention that there are a million families waiting to adopt children. And a lot of adoption agencies have actually had to close in the past few years because they have so many families waiting, but no babies to actually adopt out.
All right. Well, that's a whole discussion for another day. So in closing here, I want to give you the floor on plannedfilm.com if you're still interested in that. What would you want people to most know about yourself or about the pro-life movement, your final case, I guess, as it were?
Sure. So if people want to know more about me, they can go to abbyjohnson.org, abbyjohnson.org. If they want to know more about the film, they can go to seeunplanned.com. You can purchase the film there. You can also purchase a digital download. It is streaming on Amazon. I just want people to be encouraged. We've had huge victories over the past few days. Planned Parenthood was just in a recent verdict. They were required to pay $3 million to one of their former employees, one of their former directors, because they were doing a lot of really terrible things that she exposed. And so that's come out in the media. That we released that yesterday. Also, Trump just recently took Planned Parenthood out of the Title X funding program. We're seeing a decrease in abortion rates across the country. So, good things are happening. Now's not the time to let our guard down. We need to keep moving forward.
So there you go, folks. Title X, Donald Trump defunding the biggest women's health care provider in the United States, and they've been forced to pay somebody out, a disgruntled employee. Abby Johnson sees these as victories, very reminiscent of when they strolled on in through Poland in the 1940s. Abby Johnson, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it, and I'll see if people are convinced.
Yeah, thanks, Turden.
All right, thanks. This has been Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Skyler Turden, and I'll see you next time. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Is that just CBD or is it THC in that? Hey, if you like this video, you should be ashamed of yourself and don't subscribe or hit the notification bell, because this isn't my channel. It's just a loner for a little bit. I don't like that I have to do this, but I want to reach more people. So, find me elsewhere, but don't have anything to do with this channel. They've on, bro.